Welcome to That's My Opinion Pod. I'm your host, Vero Iglesias. This week we have a very special guest with us, and this time it's not my mother. We have Bravo Bud on with us.
Yeah.
Her name's Ari, but it's Bravo Bud. You can find her on Instagram. I'll definitely be tagging her throughout the week in different clips, and I tend to repost a lot of the stuff she puts out. So you know where to find her. And we'll get into Vanderpump. I think this season has been a little flat, but it's starting to turn. So we'll kind of be giving our opinions on that. Then we'll get into the Valley. First episode of the season. What are we thinking? How are we feeling about Jax Taylor and Kristen Doty being better? And then we'll end with a little Summer House recap and just discussing what our opinions about the season so far. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So it's time to get to know you a little bit more. I know people can find you on Instagram and you post such great content, but we want to know your opinion. So I'm going to start with, who are your top 5 favorite housewives of all time?
I'm going to go with my Melbourne goat, which is Gina Liano. I'm not sure if everyone will be familiar with Melbourne because I think Bravo played it for a very limited run, but she is a barrister. She's an Italian woman and she's just brilliant.
She's
I don't
incredible.
see. She's amazing. And the higher the hair, the closer to God. So
Her
I
hair is something else.
It's incredible and it doesn't move, and I've often pondered if it was a wig. I would never say that to her face, but, you have your
It's a,
speculations.
it's funny. I watched Melbourne and I'm actually a qualified barrister, but the first time I ever heard about being a barrister was through the Real Housewives. How
That's
real is that?
and she's such an amazing example of a barrister as well in
Yeah,
her
I
with
love.
the wig on top of her
Yeah,
wig.
yeah. That was the best introduction I could have ever had to being a barrister. Didn't have to.
Uh, I would say Lisa Vanderpump, which is a controversial answer given her recent, I don't know how you would put it, her recent behavior hasn't been the greatest. She's always been a little bit of a problematic fave of mine. She does some diabolical things, but I do appreciate, I don't want moral high ground when I'm looking for my housewives. I don't watch them as beacons of virtue. I want them to be messy and create drama. And
That's a
Vanderpump does that in spades. So,
very good point. And then third,
a Luann de Lesseps, just purely entertainment to the bone. I'm so excited because she speculated about a year ago on a podcast she was bringing her cabaret out to Australia. So I'm desperate to see her. I think she's hilarious. She's one of the most memeable housewives you can get, and she's just brilliant. And she's wonderful with the community. She
Mhm.
writes back to people and she comments and she reposts and she's just so involved. And I just love her and she's hilarious. So
She's great. Luann's a classic, a cult classic.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And then your fourth.
I would say Dr. Nicole from
Ooh.
Miami. I love her. Everything about her, her style, the vibe, the wealth.
Mm,
She's amazing. The family, she's a little devious. There's a little deviousness to Dr. Nicole. Again, I don't want a moral beacon in my housewife.
mhm. Yeah.
I want fun, and she's great. I mean, I would say the whole Miami cast is incredible. There's no one I would trade out for anything. So, but
Mhm.
Dr. Nicole's my top of the Miami housewives.
Love that. Love that. And then who's your fifth?
I'm actually going to go with a newbie, and it's Brynn Whitfield. I
That's
adore.
true.
I adore Brynn. I remember seeing her intros and thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna love you. You're
Mhm.
incredible." She's just funny, and it was. I mean, the new Roni was a little bit of a rocky start, I think, but I feel like we've got some footing. But Brynn is just a breath of fresh air and a fabulous and again. she is great with the community. She talks
Mhm.
to people and she's sharing her egg retrieval journey,
Yeah.
which I really appreciate. And yeah, I did, I did have Karen Huger, the Grand Dame, in
Yeah.
that position.
Uh,
But after recent events, I do, side
ooh,
eye.
very fair.
Yeah.
That's
So, but Bryn really is a top 5. I think she's going to be a fantastic housewife going forward.
yeah, she's so cool. She was in London, I think, doing her egg retrieval and stuff, and I was here at
Yeah.
the same time, and I was like she goes to this pub that I go into, and I was like, I would pay money to run into her because I feel like she'd actually be really fun and nice, and we could have a drink together. So,
She's
maybe when she's
yeah,
back in
I
London,
I think to purposely run it, she probably love that too.
I know.
She's very
She
cool
seems
about that kind of thing. Yeah,
yeah, she
she's
seems
great and
so fun.
style for days, great house.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
we love all those things. And then what's your favorite franchise of all time?
it's Melbourne. I have to say I'm very patriotic when it and even when our seasons were bad, they weren't that bad. But we
No,
kind
I
of
love
I would go Melbourne, Miami, both the RHOMs.
yeah,
But Melbourne's
it's
just I don't quote anything in real life more than I quote Melbourne. So
it was
I
so
it's
good. Not enough
it
people
was
watched it.
brilliant.
Not enough
No,
people watched
and I know I've posted clips and people go, "Where can I watch it? Where can I watch it?" And I'm like, "Ask Bravo." I don't
yeah.
know. No. But
I
they
want
should
so what happened? Why did they stop it?
it was owned so Bravo, I think it was an Australian cable company that ran Bravo through another station, and they ordered Foxtel, it was called, Rupert Murdoch's
Mhm,
company. They ordered the episodes. The last season, I will say the last season was not fun to watch.
mhm.
I didn't love it, but in places, but they just didn't renew. A lot of the cast sort of were moving around a lot. I think that the women would wanna come back, but I suppose it's just a question of who's gonna pay for it to come back. Uh,
Mm,
but I it would be amazing to bring it back and to
yeah,
put it on now we've got Hey You, you've got all these, Peacock, all these different streaming platforms for
mhm,
housewives. You could do Melbourne again.
yeah.
They just
I
did
mean, look,
Sydney.
Miami came back.
Yeah, exactly, and I know people and I know Americans would wanna watch Melbourne.
Mhm,
UK people wanna watch Melbourne.
mhm,
It's probably an opportune time to take advantage of the Peacock setup
yeah,
and bring back Melbourne. So,
yeah.
but why it went away, I don't know. It ratings did drop, I think, but yeah, couldn't tell you, but I'm disappointed because I do love my Melbourne ladies so much. So,
Yeah, they were so good, and I feel like I was getting so invested in their lives that I do find myself being like, "Wait, what happened to her?" And, like, I remember the psychic, I'm totally forgetting her name.
Jackie, Jicky,
Jackie, I love
yeah.
her. I'm like, "What?" And she had her babies, like, I wanna know how her life is, like, what's going on with her, like,
Yes.
I think they were a great
She
cast.
she
They were
yeah, and we went through that kind of journey with her where she was trying to get pregnant and they were having,
yeah.
that was amazing to watch. I do follow her. Her twins seem to be doing well. She was our version of The Amazing Race,
Oh,
which was with her husband, who he was, Ben Gillies was in a band called Silverchair, which were an incredibly popular rock band in Australia.
mhm,
So
mhm.
he was significant in terms of
Mhm.
Australian rock.
Oh,
I
that's
don't know how
awesome.
many people. Yeah, I don't know how many people outside I know they had hit like Silverchair's songs went on the charts in the US. I'm not sure
Mhm,
where, but,
mhm.
I don't think Ben was widely known. I think the front man was more known, but, they were a pretty significant band in the '90s in Australia, so
Wow.
and 2000s. So he was well known here. No,
I
I don't
his
think yeah,
vibe. His
he
vibe was
he was a great house husband too.
great
He
house.
got in the mix a little bit, but backed off when he needed to, which is what I
Yeah,
think is the mark of a great house husband. So,
I'm with you.
mm.
And then moving on from Housewives, what's your favorite non-Housewives show?
I'm just gonna be horribly patriotic, and everyone's gonna think I only care about Australian things. That's not true, but I do love Below Deck Down Under.
Oh my god, it was
Yeah,
so good. It was
it was
so good.
brilliant, and
I mean,
I
they
love
shot anywhere.
yeah. Yeah, and Captain Jason, who I'm very proud that he has become the stud of Bravo. So
He's a lot.
he's
We-
he's he's a gorgeous man, and I I will say probably Southern Charm at times. Last season was quite good, but yeah,
Yeah.
Below Deck Down Under, I love. I watch Deck Down Under with my mum. She won't watch all of the Housewives, but she loves Below Deck Down Under. So it's a
It's a
bonding
good one.
experience for us. Yeah.
It's definitely a good one. And then who are your top 5 Bravo celebrities, non-housewives?
I would number one, and it's not just because it's Ariana Madix. I've loved Ariana from the moment when they were playing Faith's voice recording in the housewarming, and Ariana's statement. They were like the boys can stay out, and Ariana's statement was, "We have all the artichoke dip," and I thought that was such a specific thing to say. And it was something that I'd say. I'd be like, "We've got all the, cheese." Like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. What
so
are we gonna do?
and she's always I didn't like her to begin with. It was a slow burn. And then, yeah, well, with the artichoke dip comment that season, I thought was really good for her. She called Tom
Mhm,
obtuse, which is so true in so many ways. But she is my number one. So,
mhm.
yeah.
And then who's your number 2?
I would probably go with Katie Maloney, which again is probably a controversial, but Katie is a Capricorn. I am also a Capricorn.
Okay.
She's, I remember Ira Madison on a podcast saying the thing about Katie is that she's never wrong. Her delivery's
Mhm.
just off. And if
Yeah.
you go back over the years, for me, that's very true. She's never wrong
Mhm,
about things. She just has a really terrible way of telling
mhm,
people those things.
mhm.
So I do love Katie, and she's having a great season, so I'm over the moon about that
Yeah.
'cause I love her, so
Well, she was great at admitting that this week's episode. She was like, "Delivery is my problem. Like, that's what gets
yep,
me into trouble." So,
yep,
we love a
absolutely.
self-aware queen,
Capricorn queen, yes. I love my Capricorn queen.
And then who's your number 3?
I love Craig Conover from Southern Charm. I love Pillow King. And probably him and Paige as a joint now, they're sort of a package deal, but
Mhm,
Craig hasn't always been fantastic, but the last few years, the way he sort of matured and developed as a man on television has been really
mhm.
nice to watch. And
Agree.
he's compared to the other charmers, he's leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
agree with you.
and his conspiracy theories tickle me to no end. I love that he stands so firm in that. And pandas aren't real.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then who's your 4th?
I would say Aisha from Below Deck Down Under. I think she's a great head chief stew. She's a great chief stew. She's a great
Mhm,
sunshiny person, but she can also get angry when she needs to. She
mhm,
proved herself to be such a girl's girl last
mhm.
season,
Yeah.
with all the things that went on.
Mhm,
She stood so firm in that, and she spoke about her own issues. She's just she's New Zealander, and she is such a true New Zealander. That's how they are. They're very, they're our cousins across the across the sea,
mhm.
but she's just genuine and lovely, and I really like watching her.
She's great. I really love her.
Yeah.
She's truly a breath of fresh air.
Oh, gorgeous, just gorgeous and great to look at. Gorgeous, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole vibe. I love her.
Yeah.
I really do adore her. And then who's your 5th?
It's Captain Jason. I am very, have to have my he's our Aussie king. Sorry to Brock and Michael Darby. Well, um, but Captain Jason, he's philanthropic. He's lovely, and he's just such as all of the single Bravo labs at BravoCon. He's so good to look at. Everyone wants a piece of the captain. So, captain, my captain. That's
He's so mine. So
oh,
I love it. Okay. Shall we now get into Vanderpump Rules?
oh, let's do it. Yeah.
What a season. I think this episode is where things are starting to turn for me. I mean, I'm always very entertained by it, but now I'm finding
Mhm.
like, all right, watching Sandoval flirt was
Oh,
everything I needed to see.
oh, literally recoiled away from the television set. What is happening?
It's something, please, good job, but also never stop. But I also need to
No,
see this. This is karma at its finest.
I wouldn't mind watching him on a dating. That's the sick thing. It was so awful to watch, but it would be great, like on the back or something along
Yes.
those lines. Just watching him try to have a human conversation. I don't. Yeah, it
So,
was awful,
so
awful
cringy.
to watch.
So cringy. So cringy. So, what were your thoughts on this episode?
It's a tough one for me. You do feel that tide turning, and I'm very much in the camp of this is a Sandoval redemption arc season, and I'm not 100%. I've never been team Tom and Tom. I never liked Tom
Mm,
and Tom, and
mm,
yeah, I'm getting. I'm not uncomfortable. And again, I will always love this. This was my introduction to Bravo. Was this show, so I will always love it. It's my number one go to ride or die. Watch the reunions,
mm.
but I think this was a better episode than what we've seen. And
Okay.
I'm excited for what's to come, but I'm
Mm.
still over trying to make Sandoval look like a sort of helpless victim that needs strength and guidance. And yeah.
Yeah.
Meh.
No, and you know what I was just thinking? I think one of the reasons the tides were turning this episode for me is because Ariana showed up to the bar. And
Yes.
there was that bit of them making the house, and you had them kind of there at the same time. And I don't necessarily want to see them together. Like, I don't know if that's
No.
something I need, but I do think her showing up and kind of that group having that one moment, even though they did
Yeah.
not interact at all, like it did kind of make a difference,
Yeah.
I would
It
say.
was it was a boss move, and I think Katie encouraged that. Katie knows how to stand in her power, and she
Hmm.
encouraged Ariana to do the same, and it made for really great scene,
Agreed.
and yeah, it was good. I think it was smart of her to show up because people were, especially you see it online a lot, the
Mhm.
frustration like, "Well, she needs to film this as her job."
Mhm.
And, given any normal situation, unless you work with your ex-partner, then, you
Mhm.
know but,
Mhm.
yeah, I thought that was a really good move, and it
Agreed.
made sense. So,
What did you think about Sheena and Ariana's conversation?
I I have such a love-hate relationship with Sheena because I think she's a fantastic reality
Mhm.
personality, but this Dancing with the Stars situation, I do find really laughable. Because how were you thinking you were gonna get picked over the person who was, as they continuously say, the perfect victim? Ariana was this,
Yeah.
you know, bright golden beacon of scorned women, as Tom Schwartz said. But
Mhm.
I don't know how Sheena thought, yeah, they're gonna pick me over her. It and I think it was good that they discussed it and they had it
Yeah.
out and that they got it out into the open. But it
Mhm.
was, yeah, it was, oh, Shishu.
Yeah, she's an interesting one to watch. She's very good on the show. But I was just very impressed by Ariana. I was like, damn,
Mhm.
that could never be me. That could never fucking be me. And she listened to
No.
Sheena and she took it on and she apologized where she felt she needed to apologize. And she's always willing to kind of to be better in the sense whatever her friends are expecting of her, whether we as the audience agree that it was necessary or
Mhm.
not necessary is a different story. And then Sheena in her confessional goes on to say, I just feel like Ariana doesn't validate how I feel. And I'm like, after those type of conversations, and she probably did this confessional after that was filmed. Maybe not obviously the day after, but like that had already happened in history. So I'm like, really? Like, is that really what we're seeing? Because anytime Ariana has been called out for something, she acts correct after. Like when Lala was like, you should have posted something,
Mhm.
putting people in their place. She posted something.
Mhm.
Sheena said, my feelings are hurt. She apologized and said, I should have done it differently. Like, what more can Ariana be doing?
I don't know, and that it baffles me. Lala and Sheena, both their attitudes towards her. oh, she should have just said, I can acknowledge your feelings, but I'm not the person to talk to. Is that not blatantly obvious that she is not the one to be taking your yearning to be friends with Sandoval?
Mhm.
Why would you ever think that she's the person to discuss it with? It blows my mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's shocking.
yeah. And Lala's, you need to make room for Sheena's feelings. And the comment that it's been said a few times over the past few weeks, Sheena caught a restraining order for you. No, no, no. Sheena caught a restraining order for Sheena. No offense
Yes.
to Sheena. And allegedly speculating what happened. But
Mhm.
Sheena did what Sheena did. Ariana was not there forcing
Mm.
her hand or, you know,
Nope.
this sort of attitude of Ariana needs to make space. Ariana is a very closed person, which we've seen over the past 10 years. We've seen
Yeah.
her shut off when she's feeling attacked or she doesn't want to
Mhm.
talk about something. So Sheena sort of saying, I want to bring, because you know about my relationship with Sandoval. No, Sheena, you're in your
Mhm.
late 30s. You know that this
Yeah.
isn't the right person. And
Mhm.
just stop it. Stop
Yeah,
it.
I know, it's so
It's
frustrating.
I just don't understand. I don't understand why Ariana has to make space for someone else's trauma as well as her own.
No,
That's
it's so wild. I would have the same position, especially as Katie. Katie's where I'm like, that's me. Where she's just like,
mhm.
why? Like, this person is a fucking shitty person.
Mhm.
Why do you want to be friends with someone who does shitty things? And also, and I saw somewhere on Instagram of someone saying, weren't Tom and Sheena like having issues like last season, saying they weren't really friends, XYZ. So like now they're best friends. Like, which one is it? And I totally respect that they have history and I get it.
Mhm.
But like, you want to be friends with someone who behaves this way? Because what affair is one thing. That's one thing.
Yeah.
What it happened. The way
Mhm.
he's handled himself throughout the affair, after the affair, and quite honestly, before the
And even in the flashbacks that we were given, these sort of romanticized flashbacks, there wasn't a whole lot going on. It was like they had a laugh on the couch and an interaction at Sir. And I was if you went back over the last 10 years and looked for like moments, especially, you look at, Stacy and Kristen and Katie, and they have these really in deep, and Ariana and Sheena, these moments of friendship that are really lovely to watch. Schwartz and Sandoval, as much as
Yeah.
that relationship, ugh,
Yeah.
there's beautiful moments that you could find between them, but they couldn't really pull those out for Sandoval and Sheena. And I thought if they were best friends, wouldn't that really become evident on the show?
Yeah.
I am of the same mindset as Katie. My biggest gripe with the entire thing, not even acknowledging, Ariana's feelings about this. What Rachel, Sandoval, and Schwartz did to Katie last year was
I know.
wild. Wild. And
Why?
setting her up to be this evil ogre. And I get a lot of that if I ever post anything about Katie, the comments again, I'm like, "Ugh, okay. And everyone is very entitled to their own opinion on my page.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that. But
Mm.
Katie, what they did to her last year was so awful. And Katie's handled it the way that Sheena should be handling it.
Yeah.
Going, you did this to Ariana, first and
Mhm.
foremost, but there were other things you did to me that I don't agree with. I don't like the person you are. I don't have space for you in my life. Yes, okay, we can be cordial, but Sheena's clinging on to some romanticized version of Sandoval that we've never really
No.
seen evidence of.
No. No.
So what
He sent you money. Oh, okay. Like, that's
Kristen money too. That's all coming out in the what and but also, he tormented Kristen on TV. This is my opinion. I'm getting there.
yeah.
But
No,
he,
give us your
you know,
opinion.
he stopped Kristen from going on multiple trips. He tried to ice her out of the group and Kristen was horrible to Ariana.
Mhm.
But he did stuff to Kristen. Kristen did stuff to him. Jax
Mhm.
did stuff to him. He forgave Jax immediately, but tried to ice Kristen out completely. And we can't even have half a season of people icing out Tom because it's unfair. I've never been a big Sandoval fan. I've always thought he was a grandstander. And to me,
Mhm.
I'm very much in Camp Katie, where I'm like, it's giving your friends money.
100%.
We've seen him do it in the past, even with people like Jax. I've done this for you and I've done that for
Mhm.
you and blah,
I
blah,
gave you
blah. And
this.
I'm
I gave
great.
you a sandwich.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The poor Randy Jackson's caught in the crosshairs.
It's so funny. Can we talk about Katie and Sandoval's conversation? Because that
Oh,
was
I love her. I love her so much. I love her so
she
much.
so unbothered. She was just like, "No,
No,
don't feel the need to do that. No, can I
can I have a
give
little
him
bit of
grace?"
grace? Nah. And that's what he hates about her is that his manipulation doesn't work on her.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh
what
my
he's
god.
always hated about her. She doesn't swoon under Sandoval's charm, you know. And that was bliss to watch. I love watching Katie take someone down. It's so
It's
fun.
so good because she's just so unapologetic. She's like, "I don't give a fuck. I'm not gonna worry about your feelings because you've
No,
never worried about mine."
again, I go back to the things that he did to her last year, and she kept talking about lighting people on fire. I'm like, I probably would have,
Mhm.
like not no violence, but the way that was
Literally.
no, no, no pyromaniacs here. But even going back over the fight about naming Schwartz and Sandys, which did end up biting them on the ass. Katie
Yeah.
was right yet again. But
Mhm.
Sandoval, I don't want your wife around, dude. And it's like, oh, like bleh.
It's hard.
And I just I she does it so effortlessly. There's no screaming, there's no yelling. She just laid him out. And it was
Yeah.
great to watch.
It was lovely. And speaking of Katie and eviscerating people, what about her and Lala? That dynamic and that conversation that they had was very interesting.
Again, Lala's approach this season, I understand where Lala is coming from. I'm someone who's tried to be softer,
Mm.
and tried to be never works. But sort of the way Lala goes about things, it's like you've been unkind to me, and it's Lala. We've watched you say some pretty crappy stuff to people,
Mhm.
and she's very teary. She's obviously still processing a lot of emotions about
Mhm.
Randall. But I think Katie handled it really well. Katie handled it like a
Yeah.
friend. She said, "I'm
Yeah.
really sorry.
Agreed.
Yeah, my delivery is off. And
Mhm.
but also this is the way you
Yeah.
come across."
Yeah.
Identifying that issue because I understand the situation. I can't even, I had a friend who went through a very similar situation. It was a very messy breakup and there was a
Mhm.
child and it was
Mhm.
awful. But compare and it's like trauma wars. I've got
Mhm.
more trauma than you, and you don't. Ariana is wrapped up in a $2.7 million house with this man.
Mhm.
She can't move out. There's all these legalities around. There's just no understanding of that, and it
No.
blows my
No.
mind. But I thought Katie was a really great friend in that moment and acknowledged.
So I'm having an interesting time watching Lala because I relate to Lala in a lot of ways. I think the intensity and sometimes you say shit and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. And I have very strong opinions that I don't need to have. Like I have no dog in this fight. Why do I have such strong opinions? But where she loses me is, and I said it last week on the pod, she doesn't come from a place of let's find similarities in our trauma. She starts off with
Mhm.
differences. And
Yeah,
that's where she gets lost in
and
it. Because there's something so bonding about something not working out with these life partners that you feel intertwined with. Are you intertwined with
Mhm.
them in completely different ways? Sure. But you're still intertwined. And I think we could all agree having a child with someone, with an ex, is much worse than having a house. 1000%.
Mhm.
But once
Mhm.
again, when you start off with that, you're only going to create tension between you and that person coming together and understanding each other. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's a bit much. It's a
It
bit
it
much.
a and
She's also has a lot of reason too. I must say, she
Mhm.
does bring a lot of reasons to different situations. So I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. And she's matured in such amazing ways.
Hmm.
I think Ocean has brought her a lot of clarity. And
Great.
I understand where she's coming from. I think it's just been a bit of a whiplash situation. She was so uh, through Scandival, on the show, off the show, she was so passionate about the type of person that Sandoval was and the diagnosis she gave him. If I feel like it is full whiplash. She didn't want Schwartz playing pickleball with
Yeah.
Randall, understandably so. But then,
Mhm.
Ariana needs to be near Sandoval. Ariana also has legal ties to this person that
Yeah.
if something gets said or something gets mentioned, it can be used
Mhm.
against her. Now we've got
Agreed.
Rachel's lawsuit, all this stuff could come out on the show. With Lala, for me, it is just a bit of whiplash. So,
Yeah, agreed.
yeah.
Agreed. And then let's get into a lighter note. Joe and Schwartz.
For me, it's not a lighter note. And I hope that turtle story is not true.
No, that was traumatizing. I was like, I did not. The editors did not need to give me like this much concern.
No, it's
Unnecessary.
the is that turtle like, I know she said it became a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, but was the
And
first
then
half
it
of the
died.
story I don't yeah, I look no more reptiles on this show. I don't turtles, reptiles? Oh, I should know that. I'm Australian. I'm terrible. But,
They're similar.
no more no more small pets on this show, just dogs. I actually had a little bit of a flip-flop moment on with Joe. I feel really sorry for her, actually.
Okay,
So,
tell me more.
we've all had that one guy in our life, and they're always like
Mhm.
some floppy-haired, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
dopey smile,
Mhm.
who we're like, "Oh, this might be my person. We have so much in common. We like all the same
Mhm.
things. We have the same sense of humor." And that person's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to date."
Yeah. Yeah.
And then 6 months down the track, he's dating a 24-year-old recent college
Yeah.
grad. So, having that perspective, if I wasn't watching the show with that perspective, I would probably be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's all right." But
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, poor she is
Oh,
so in
but
love with that man." It's
yeah, the
insane.
whole thing's really rough though. And I'm like, don't come for Katie. I'm like, oh,
Oh, yeah,
and
no. That
like, stay in your place, girl. Like, don't forget what's going on. And for Chris applesauce confessional look, he's a little much for me. It makes me uncomfortable. It's very
yeah,
entertaining.
sitting awkwardly in a chair is yeah, it's a
It's
trait,
a
but
treat. It's a treat for sure.
I did take issue with her calling Katie a jealous ex. I'm like, that is that you literally moved in with her ex-husband very
Yeah.
quickly after they after and I also wanna know what the Bieber comment was about in her text. Was there a Bieber connection?
I don't know what the Bieber connection. I don't know if she like
No.
calls herself Bieber. Like, I don't know what. And it was, I don't know what that was
It
about.
was
And I think we need answers.
yeah.
And then we have the amazing transition that is
Oh,
Vanderpump to the Valley. Mr. Jax Taylor back on our damn screen. What's
oh.
your reaction to having him back? How are you feeling?
Again, I'm really conflicted about this because
Mhm.
Jax is the devil.
Yeah.
But but he was so necessary in that moment to come in
Mhm.
and calling Tom and saying he looked 50 years old. As much as I don't like Jax, I was like, "Oh, that was a great moment." And
Yeah.
poor
That
Tom
was
was
great.
just like, "Oh," and then saying that, "I wouldn't take advice from you guys about opening a bar." It was
Dig.
he just
Dig
it was
after
just
dig.
1, 2, 3 yeah, it was just
Mhm.
one after the other. And Schwartz again, "Oh my god, this is going so wrong." Well, no shit, dude. Like, of course it was gonna go wrong.
So funny. So funny.
It it was, the perfect yeah, I think the perfect transition with him. He is,
Mhm.
again, reality TV gold, gold, and I don't think he's changed at all. Everyone's like, "He's a new man," and I'm like, I think he just has a new label,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
he's like a minivan, like a family van now, but he was
Yeah.
a I don't know. What
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I was shocked because I feel like we've seen Jax for a while. Like he's present. He's always around somewhere. He's done
Mhm.
Watch What Happens Live and stuff. So I didn't think him coming back would be like that crazy for me. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw him walk in, I was like, "Oh, this is looking good."
It
I'm
was
really
such a
happy about that.
the editors, the editors and the showrunners, they are on one because
Really.
following him through, was Tom Tom?
Tom Tom.
Was it Tom?
Tom
Yeah, it
Tom.
was Tom Tom. But this and almost making him look like this looming figure from behind. And
I don't know
his
if you noticed the people in the restaurant, some of the girls' faces were
yeah,
like just
necks was
good.
snapping.
So fucking good. Okay, let's get into the valley.
The
What are your
valley.
thoughts on the first episode? We don't necessarily have to break down the drama because I don't think we know
Yeah.
the players well enough. But once you
No.
what are you feeling?
I I actually quite liked almost everyone. I think it's a really
Okay.
good mix of couples,
Mhm.
and we have some side characters I think will prove to be good at getting in the mix later down the track. And again, having this perspective of Jax and Brittany are separated now. We know where they're going to end up, through the show, but we're going to see it all play out.
Mhm.
I, I quite liked it. I liked the dynamics between the different couples. I thought that was interesting to see because we're seeing a more
Mhm.
mature version of Vanderpump now. And yeah, I did like it. I'm concerned that Jax is just as unhinged as he was on Vanderpump, but now he's got a house and a kid, and
Yeah.
that's worrying.
Terrifying. Terrifying.
Yeah.
I loved seeing Lala and Sheena on it. I was like, oh,
Yes.
this is good. I'm glad they filmed for
Mhm.
it. Like, there's something really comforting in that transition. I'm not gonna lie. I really felt comfort in it.
Yeah.
I also think I like Kristen Doty. I mean, she's Kristen.
Mariposa.
I
Mariposa's back.
I love her. I felt like
I
it's so tough to watch, but I love it. Like it's a
oh,
good tug.
she's our chaotic queen. And
Mhm.
that was her value on Vanderpump was it didn't matter how insane whatever she was gonna do sounded. She did it
Mhm.
anyway, and
Yeah.
no one could talk her down. And I think even we got to see that in the introduction episode, like, "I'm gonna have a baby," and it was like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
we're out the gate," you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I always had a soft spot for Kristen on
Mhm.
Vanderpump, and
Mhm.
I thought she got treated pretty shittily by a lot of the cast over the
Mhm.
years because she is
Yeah.
who she is, and she's unapologetic about it, which I admire. And yeah, it's good to see her back, and hopefully, fingers crossed, with someone that's good for her.
Normal.
But
Yeah.
remains to be seen. But
Well, are they still together? Do you know?
they are. I've just, there's rumors around the tracks. I don't know.
Oh,
There's
God.
just I don't know. There's some sketchy stuff. Even today, reading, and I was like, no, no, and I listened to their podcast. I don't 100% like his vibe, but
Mm.
I'm not dating him, so it doesn't really matter
No.
what I think. But
Not my
yeah,
circus, not my monkey.
no, exactly, 100%.
So yeah, I have hope in the valley. I think that one girl, and I'm not the best with names, but I get good with names once I get to know the person and I don't know them yet.
Hmm.
The blonde one who's pregnant, that's friends with all of the girls outside. She's great.
Great, Janet. That's
Yeah.
Janet. Janet and
Oh
her
my
super
God.
gorgeous husband, who's
Gorgeous. Love.
gorgeous. It's
Okay, now let's get
fantastic.
into Summer House.
Okay.
Are you ready for Summer House?
Somehow, yeah,
So what do you
let's kick it.
think about this season?
I was a little bit of a Lindsay apologist last year, and now I'm really regretting that decision. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
It did not start out well for her this year,
No,
so
I'm shocked that she was shocked that this didn't work out.
I don't think she was shocked. I think Lindsay's very good with her PR, being a PR gal, but some of the things that are coming out of her mouth are wild. And everyone has to stop comparing everyone to Sandoval. Stop. No one is like
No,
Sandoval. Stop.
no. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. No, and I think what's so interesting is that we're only like 3 or 4 episodes in, and
Yeah.
you already have everyone looking at Carl and Lindsay being like, "You guys sure about this one?"
Yeah.
There was a scene this episode where Sierra talks to Carl, and I found that conversation this season of Summer House to me is just like on a different fucking level. You're feeling friendship.
Mhm.
They're getting along. It's heavy stuff, but it feels you feel like you're kind of a part of the group in a way that we weren't getting last season.
Yeah.
Kira has this talk with Carl where she's like, I think she's like, I'm not saying you shouldn't get married. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying this if this is how it is now, this is what you're signing up
Mhm.
for. And you have to
Yeah.
keep that in mind. And I love seeing Sarah and Carl have that conversation because they're not two people in the house that I'm like, oh, they're super close. Like I know they've
Yeah.
had their moments, but they're not people that I would combine together necessarily. And that moment felt like they are two people who care and respect each
Mhm.
other, which is always nice to watch.
It is.
But
It's
but man, everyone's looking at them like, hello.
well, and maybe people will back off Paige and Craig now. Craig, sorry, that's the thing. Craig. It's
I know.
I will say Craig because that's how Australians say Craig. Um,
Yeah,
Paige
correct the
and
heart.
Craig.
Mhm,
Yeah, I know Craig wants to marry Paige, but just maybe back off a little bit.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
because we're watching this relationship play out like that. She's smart to avoid it. They haven't been together for a really, really long time. And watching Lindsay and Carl go through all this and Lindsay's sort of reactions to things, it's just, yeah, I think it would put anyone off posing, to be honest.
Agreed,
It's, yeah,
agreed. Yeah, I think
it's,
with Craig and Paige, they they're an interesting one, and this week's episode, he was kind of saying, they're like, "Yeah, we hope we end up together, but, like, you never know, there's possibilities." And I think
mm-hmm,
a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're trying to push the haters off and being like,
mm-hmm,
"Alright, you guys want us to do the next step so bad, and we were talking about it and how bad we wanted it, and you guys were questioning us at every step, so we're just gonna be like, maybe it doesn't work out. Who
mm.
knows?" Just to get people off their back because, damn, people are
Yeah.
intense about
And
that.
just, yeah, leave them alone. Yeah. Yeah. All right. They're in their 30s, but, everyone's Tish Cyrus just got married. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine.
Everyone has a chance. And I think, especially with reality shows, we've seen it time and time again. People get together, they get engaged, they get married, they break
Mhm.
up, and it
Yeah.
all plays out in the audience. So
Mhm, mhm. And then what else is going on in Summer House that you're enjoying this season?
Sierra and West, I think that's really cute. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they're still together. There's been hints that they might be. I think it's really because Sierra doesn't have the best picker, and West just seems nice, and he
Yeah.
really loves her. So it's sweet. It's nice when a man is genuinely invested in a woman and not,
Yeah.
you know, Austin crawling all around him.
I know. I know. I think he's such a great addition. I really like their banter. I think it adds a fun
Mhm.
element to the house. Yeah, they're really sweet together. I like seeing this side of her as well.
She seems lighter and happier. Everyone seems, apart from Carl and Lindsay, everyone seems a little more. And I think I'm not 100% sure what's going on with Amanda and Kyle.
Mm,
That there's some, again, some more, but they're not as blatant with their problems
mhm.
as.
Yeah, agree.
But I think everyone just seems to be having more fun together
Mhm.
again, which is
Yeah,
what Summer House was sort of originally intended to be. It didn't
agree.
want to get as sort of dark. I mean, all of them, we just get dark and then we come back into the light. And that's
Yes,
always a really
it's
nice,
important. It's
yeah.
part of the way the season
Hmm.
works. What do you think about Jesse Solomon?
Oh, I like him. He's got a lovely, he's like was he on Broadway? Am I, yeah, I might be that. I swear to God, he's a singer of so
He's a singer, but I don't think he was on Broadway.
I swear he was on Broadway. Why did I think that? No, because someone I made a comparison to Ariana, and then he was like, "I was on Broadway." I could be wrong.
What?
I'm probably wrong. Probably very wrong.
Is this a Googleable search?
Yeah. Okay. No, look, I like him. I don't know enough about him to,
Yeah.
yeah, warrant. And again, someone who's talking about, we've seen it with Gertie on Miami,
Mhm.
talking about their cancer journey and and I think especially for men, because
Mhm.
men don't really speak on that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. having that out there with, people who watch the show with their girlfriends or, boyfriends or whatever, it's really good to show that journey as a young person that
Mhm,
that's what you went through and that
mhm.
you've come out the other side and you're doing really well.
Agreed. Agreed. And
Yeah.
there's so many young men who get testicular cancer. So
Yeah.
it's I mean, I don't know how many young men are watching Summer House, but maybe their siblings are, and their
No.
sisters and their girlfriends or whoever. Like, it's still good to have those type of stories out in the universe for people to relate to.
Well, it opens up the conversation. I mean, that's the main thing with these shows. People are disparaging about it, but
Mhm,
it opens up conversations that you might not have had before.
mhm.
A girl will watch it and say to her boyfriend, maybe you should go get checked, you know.
Yeah. Agreed.
And that's, yeah. And I know a lot of men that, walk past the TV and, oh, and then they end up knowing 100% what's going on,
Mhm.
with
Yeah.
these reality shows. So,
Mhm,
that's the audience that's there. And yeah, I think it's great of him to speak about it and not there's no taboo or stigma or anything
mhm.
around it. And he's just being really open and honest. And I think he's nice to look at. So
He is definitely nice to
mm,
look at. Do you have any other thoughts you want to share before we close the episode out?
just justice for Katie. I really want to
Just as
see my girl Katie get some sort of justice and
mhm,
not a fake ass apology with a protein shaker in hand. And I have heard rumors that something about her is going to open in May. I think personally that the girlies have timed it so that it's filmed as the opening episode for season 12. Yeah, fingers crossed if we get a season 12. I mean, the ratings are good, so I'd say we will. But I
mhm.
think they've kept it under their belts a little bit so they get that opening on TV and
Right.
can, you know, and eventually if I get over to LA, I really want a sandwich. Those sandwiches
Yeah,
look amazing.
they do. I think I trust whatever they want to feed me. I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. But
I'll take it.
no, this has been a delight and a pleasure. So thank you for
Oh,
having me.
thank you so much for coming on. This is so, so fun. You're welcome back whenever you want. Whenever you're like, I just want
I
to talk about my opinion. Not that you don't have your own Bravo page, but you know where to come find me.
Yeah, I work with a bunch of software developers and they don't want to talk about Vendables with me. So
I
I
was
do still talk
so
about it.
I was so lucky at my office. I had two people that all watched all the Bravo
Oh,
stuff. One is a Kiwi. So her
yeah.
and I would just go at it. We talked about everything. She listens to the pod. So, and you know, you are. Yeah, it's important to have people in your workplace who also watch Bravo. In every
Yeah.
workplace I've had Bravo lovers with me. So it's been I've been so lucky.
I love my job, but trying to break it down and they're the loveliest men, boys and men, but they look at me like I'm speaking another language when I said Tom said it and he cheated on his partner. What?
Yeah.
I'm like, let me
Uh,
draw you a diagram on our whiteboard. So,
so fun. Well, listen, whenever you want to come back,
oh, if you'll have me, I would be more than happy.
please. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you everyone for listening. That was this week of That's My Opinion Pod, and I'll see you guys next week.